Hey guys, Snug here. Axie Infinity came a long way before it became the best play to earn crypto game in the world we know now. From a browser auto battler to a literal digital trading card game. So let's go ahead and talk about the evolution of Axie Infinity's battle system from the humble beginnings of version 1 to version 3 origin. So for version 1, we're going to travel back in time to June 2018 and we're introduced to Axie's first battle system on a browser. Not only is it on a browser, version 1 was an auto battler, which means that once the game starts, all you had to do was sit back, relax, as your Axies fight for glory. So now you must be thinking, easy money, buy 3 Axies, then boom, flying jelly beans go brrrr. No. Far from it actually. Now just because it's an auto battler doesn't mean that strategy isn't involved at all. Strategic gameplay starts with choosing which Axies you want to have in your team, along with the order of the moves they'll execute during the match. Now positioning plays a big role. Let me explain, because this was important. Axies, based on the moveset that they have, specific spots in where their position deals bonus damage depending if the ability executed is a melee or ranged attack, and your Axie's position also determines the amount of damage it takes. So you had to use this to your advantage, especially if you want to be efficient with your tank. So on to stats. Stat points are predetermined by the body parts and race an Axie is born with, from a speedy aqua to a beefy reptile. For the stats, we have health, which determines how tanky an Axie is and how much health he has, speed, which determines which Axie attacks first, skill increases the overall damage your card deals, and morale is the likelihood an attack will crit. Lastly, cards may apply effects on your Axies that include buffs and debuff statuses. My favorite was when your Axies get poisoned, they turn green, even as it goes, which I just found really funny. And that's it for Battle V1. Now on to version 2. Starting with how you compose your team, the tank in the front and the squishies in the back is still a main mechanic, since by default the front Axie is always the main attack target. So let's start with the top of the battle screen. You'll see the order of which Axies attack first, so use this to your advantage. On the upper right corner there's a card counter that reveals the amount of cards your opponent has in their hand currently. Also on the bottom of the screen you have the amount of cards in your draw pile, an energy counter, and to the right is your discard pile. Your Axie's abilities are determined by 4 key body parts: the mouth, horn, back, and tail. Stats are determined by body parts your Axies have, same as version 1. However, skill and morale are different in this version. Skill is the bonus damage when playing more than 1 card, and morale determines your Axie's crit rate and last stand points. More last stand points means more cards you can play, or more attacks you can take. Debuffs and buffs are also applied during the battle, which can either aid your Axies into battle or lower your enemy's stats. Some can give you a massive damage boost and can even stun your enemies, rendering their cards useless. Your Axie's race also has a sort of rock paper scissors type of mechanic. For example, a bird will deal more damage to a beast or bug, but will deal less damage to a reptile or plant. The opposite can be said with a beast, where it deals more damage to a plant or reptile, however it deals less damage to a bird or aqua. This is also the version where we're introduced to 3 new secret races, which are Mech, Dusk, and Dawn. Now on to the battle itself. Energy and cards are given to you and your opponent at the start of each round, and the amount of cards you can play is determined by the cost of the card. You have the decision to either attack, defend, buff, or even a mix of all 3. You can even decide to just skip and do nothing to keep your energy and cards for the next round. Once both you and your opponent have chosen which card to play that round and both players ended their turns, the Axies will then execute cards depending on the order the player chooses. The speed of the Axie determines which Axie will execute the played cards first. As both players repeats this process, the winner will be the first player to bring all their opponent's Axies to 0. At round 10, the Blood Moon will deal damage at the end of each turn, which increases per round. So finish the game quick or you won't be healing out of this one. Either player can use this to their advantage. Version 2 also introduced Adventure Mode, where it features 36 stages of single-player action that helps teaches new players the core mechanics of the game, and gives veteran players a challenge by full clearing them. And somewhere around late version 2, the flying jelly beans we know and love got an update where they clipped their wings and now all the Axies are down to the ground. I guess we're all floor Axies now. Oh, and also this hilarious tail slap animation. And now 4 years later, we get to version 3 Origin. Now Sky Mavis really outdid themselves this time. This really shocked my world. So the game is no longer a one-time clash, but instead a turn-based card game where the first person to go is decided 50-50 at the beginning of the match. Going second isn't always bad since you're given a special coin that gives you 1 extra energy. Now whatever happened to stats? Well, they're a thing of the past. All Axies have the same health, crits can only occur when you're in Fury mode, speed doesn't matter anymore since it's a turn-based game, and skill is what you, the player, provides to the game. Now you're introduced to a whole new set of buttons and icons with a new battle UI. We got a history tab that keeps track of the previous cards played by you and your opponent, an energy counter, your draw pile, your discard pile, and your banish pile. Not only can you track how many cards are in those piles, you can even check which cards are in there instead of just memorizing them. You also have a counter for your enemy's card pile, however you're not allowed to view them. Isn't that neat? Talk about planning ahead, right? Now we're still following the 3 Axies per team rule, but we're introduced to Axie's roles. The tanker, which is the frontline beefy boy that protects your squishies, the damage dealer, which focuses more on bringing the enemy's HP to 0, and the supporter that does a variety of things like buff, heal, protect, stall, you name it, can even attack. I'm more of a supportive type myself. Now as for positioning, it went from 3 rows to now only 2, 3 in the top, 3 in the bottom, for a total of 6. How you position your Axies don't affect the game when you follow the standard front tank and the squishies in the back, however it does matter when you're playing summons. And now there's more cards to be played. From 4 cards to 6, Eyes and Ears are now ability cards with only 1 copy of each per Axie, making the deck composed a total of 18 cards per team. 2 new types of cards are introduced into the game, which are Curse cards and Secret cards. Curse cards are cards that infiltrate your opponent's deck and does a nasty effect when you draw them, from sabotaging your draws and gives you less options to dealing damage to you at the end of your turn. There's also Secret cards that has a nasty effect when triggered by an attack, so use this to your advantage. And now let's get to my favorite feature, Summons. That's right, Summons. Origin features summoning creatures to aid you in battle, from tanky trees to supportive birds and healing clovers too. But here's a secret, you can even summon the squishies in the front if you need them to tank and take the hit. Not a horrible person, I'm just saying Mavis could take a hit sometime. Now let's get to the juicy part of power-ups. Runes and charms. They're items you give to your Axie to give them a power boost, and they're cards too. So let's start with runes. Runes are based on the Axie's race, so for example, this Endless Anger rune can only be equipped by a beast. However, a beast can never equip the Gloomy Dice, which is only for Dusk, which is by the way my personal favorite rune. However, there are also runes available that can be equipped by all races, which are called neutral runes. Now let's get to charms. You attach these babies on your Axie's abilities and give them a slight boost in stat or effect. The more powerful the charm, the more potential points it requires to equip. Potential points, you might ask? These are points available to you based on the body parts and race of an Axie. For example, if you want to use Mask of Frenzy on a beast, he needs 4 beast potential points. A pure Axie of the same race has 15 total potential points. So once you equip the Mask of Frenzy, your remaining potential points go down to 11. So apart from runes, charms can actually be equipped by any Axie race, because your Axie's potential points is based on the body parts. So let's say your Aqua has 3 Nutcracker abilities, which means he has 4 beast potential points and can equip the Mask of Frenzy. So an Aqua can equip the best beast charm, and you can then equip the Aqua's best rune, which is the Heart of the Ocean, which gives your entire team a 75 health boost. Isn't that insane? So just because your Axies aren't pure, doesn't mean they're useless. And that's really my favorite part about Axie version 3. It brings out the best in any Axie no matter what their purity is. Just because you're pure doesn't mean you're an amazing Axie. There's so many ways on how you can build your team, and it's not just limited to the Axie's moveset alone. Alright, and that's it for our history of Axie Infinity's battle system from version 1 to version 3 Origin. Leave a comment on what you guys want me to talk about next. Also, what's your favorite build since Origin came out? That's the end of the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
Back in version 1, introduced the flying jelly beans. Got a second look, suddenly I'm seeing everything. The damage, the power, all the possibilities. Shot up to the top with my mystical